do not buy a car right now. I repeat, do not buy a car right now. Dealers are painting themselves into a corner, and we're seeing that on the wholesale side. I'm a used car dealer. My name's Brandon. All these cars behind you that you see are my cars. This is my car lot. And I, as a used car dealer, am telling you, do not buy a car from me right now. Do not buy a car from any other dealer. Do not buy a car from franchise dealers, new car stores, because the prices are too high right now, and this cannot sustain. The interest rates are too high for the demand to be where it's at right now. The reason why we have such an imbalance of demand is because that the inventory levels are just not there. New car dealers are not selling as much as they had been, making trade-ins more scarce across the market. And the way that used car dealers like myself get cars is from auction, and the way that these auctions get cars is from new car dealer trade-ins, and we're just not getting enough. There's such a inventory crisis in the wholesale side of the used car market that it is driving the prices of used cars through the roof right now. But there is light at the end of this tunnel. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. My name is Brandon. Like I said earlier, I'm a used car dealer, and I like to give you insights and show you what's going on the inside of the market from a used car dealer's perspective. I go to auctions every week, and I see what's happening in real time. So what I really want to talk about today is the unsustainability of what's going on in the market right now. And there's a few factors that are playing a role in why used car prices are so elevated right now when interest rates are still so high as they are. The Fed is doing its best to crush out demand, and they're doing it in a great way across the housing market. They're even affecting the new car market, but it's having an inverse effect on the used car market. And the reason why is because, like I said earlier, how we used car dealers get our cars is from trade-ins from new car dealers. If new car dealers aren't selling as much as they had been, then that means the used car inventory is going to go less. But we have another element that's actually playing into this. Is because new car dealers' prices are so high right now, interest rates are so high, and monthly payments are so high that people are having to trade down. Someone that could afford a new car and a new car payment just 6-12 months ago now can't afford one because the monthly payments are out of their range. So what are they having to do? They're having to trade down and get something that is not new, something that's used, that's going to be cheaper, it's going to have a cheaper monthly payment. And what that causes a little bit more pressure on the used car market, because now those customers that wanted to be in that range, those used car prices are elevated because the demand's higher for them now, and it pushes them to trade down. And it's just a trickle down effect through the whole used car market, that even stuff like I buy, this $3,500 stuff, this right here, 2 years ago, this would have been probably a $2,500 van, but now because the prices are so elevated on this kind of stuff that we're having to charge even $1,000 more than what we used to have to charge for this stuff, because we're paying over $1,000 more at these auctions to be able to buy this kind of stuff. So you're just having this element that goes through the market that is just moving down from price point to price point to price point, that is shoving the prices up through the used car market, because the demand for used cars is so elevated right now because there's such small supply of them, and because you're bringing in a whole new element of more people having to come in to buy these used cars that can't afford to buy new ones anymore. And because we just got out of this era of free money, all the helicopter money that was sent out during the pandemic, dealers were selling cars like crazy. You almost couldn't buy a car that you weren't going to make money on in the last 2 years, because there was just so much money being pumped into the system. And because of that, new car dealers were selling a lot of cars too, and we're getting a lot of trade-ins. So we still had some inventory coming into the system every week from these new car dealers that were getting trade-ins. But now what's happening is the spigot's been turned off, interest rates are up, and nobody's getting free money anymore. So these new car dealers, they're not really selling a whole lot of cars, meaning they're not getting these trade-ins. And that's really the biggest problem that the used car market is facing right now. It's even more crushing than the interest rates going up, because we need more inventory into the system to be able to make the prices go down. And with us just coming out of this time of all this free money and dealers getting used to being able to sell anything they touch, they're still locked into that habit. And there were dealers that were created over these last 2 years that this is the only market that they have ever seen. So they're used to just being able to charge these outrageous prices for these cars, and they're going to end up getting burnt on the other side of this. So right now, as the used car prices are going up, they're still elevated, they're going up at auction still, these dealers are continuously buying, and their lots are getting filled, but they're planning on this for the promise of tax season that's coming up soon. And what'll happen through tax time is we'll get even another bump up at on the wholesale level of auction prices, and your prices for your on retail side are going to go up too. So I'm urging people right now, if you're in the market for a used car, if you don't have to buy right now, definitely don't buy right now. And it's going to be a few months before we get any kind of relief of these prices going up, because we're already seeing it on the wholesale side, and it's going to happen a little bit slower on the retail side. But prices are already high, and they're about to go higher, and they're going to be that way for, I would say, probably another 2 months before we start seeing the trend to go down again. Because as this money comes into the system from tax refunds going out, it's really going to put so much pressure, especially on the lower end of the used car market, and the inventory is just not going to be there, because you're not going to see a big spike in new car sales. So we're not going to get a big spike in trade-ins. So that's going to put even more pressure on the limited amount of supply that we have, and these dealers are just going to pay for it, and they're going to pay way too much for these cars, and then they're going to put them out on their lots for way too much, even more than what they're putting out now, and they're going to get overexposed, and they're going to get over leveraged. A lot of dealers, they don't pay cash for their cars, they don't own their vehicles, they actually borrow money to buy their vehicles. So as their credit goes down and down and down when they buy these cars, they're going to have a good selling season. Tax time is good for dealers. They're going to sell through these cars, but then they have to rush back to auction to resupply, and for that resupply they're going to pay way too much for, and they're going to end up sitting on these cars and not being able to sell them because they paid way too much for them at the auction. And as that happens, it's going to take time for it to move through the system. It's going to take time for these dealers come to a realization that they've got to lower their prices to be able to sell it, because just as soon as the tax time money gets here, it's going to be gone in about 2-3 weeks right after it gets here. And I'm really looking forward to that time frame. I don't want anybody to get hurt. I don't want these dealers to get hurt, but they're really going to bring it onto themselves, because they're going to get so overexposed and over leveraged in these cars that they shouldn't have paid that kind of price for in the first place, that they really just have it coming to them. So they're going to be stuck with the bag, and I don't know that it's going to be so bad that a lot of them are going to go out of business, but I know they're going to have to make drastic decisions to be able to cut these cars, to be able to pay off their credit, to be able to pay off their leverage, to be able to get their floor plans right. The floor plan is what they use to borrow money for these credits, for this credit to be able to buy their vehicles. Because at the end of the day, if they don't pay off that credit line that they're using to be able to buy these cars, then it's going to go away, and they didn't have money to begin with to buy cars in the first place. So if they don't come up with their payments to pay off the difference or whatever they're going to lose, and then they lose their floor plan, there's no reason for them to even be in business, because they're not going to be able to buy cars. So this day is coming, and it's coming soon, where these dealers are going to realize that they're over leveraged in all of these cars, because the amount that they're going to have to pay at auction over the next few weeks, as tax time checks come in, as they pay too much for it, like I said earlier, it's going to go away just as soon as it comes. And then there's just going to be this mass realization from all these dealers that, hey, I've got payments coming up, I'm not selling any cars anymore, it was just an awesome time and we loaded back up after we sold all these cars, but we paid too much for it. Now what do I need to do? and they're going to start dumping cars at auction because they're not going to be able to sell them on their lot because people will not be able to afford them. So when that day comes, I'm going to be reporting it all to you. I'm at all these auctions. I'm going to be able to watch what these dealers are doing, watch what these floor plan companies are doing, and I'll let you guys know exactly when I see a lot of these dealer cars start coming back to auction. But it's going to happen. It happens every year, and this year it's going to be worse than any other year that we've experienced because the lack of inventory is so dramatic. It's so low compared to what it has been in prior years that and these new car dealers, there's nothing that's coming up on the horizon. There's no interest rate cut that's coming up on the horizon that's going to make them be able to sell their cars anytime soon. So we're not getting any influx of inventory coming into the system. I know a lot of people are talking about repos coming in the system. People are going to default, lose their jobs, whatever. Even if we get a big explosion of repos, I've said this multiple times on my channel, it's not going to be enough to account for the lack of trade-ins that we're getting at this auction. So repos is not going to be where we get our explosion of inventory. All right, so now you as the consumer, what I'm going to tell you is the same thing I've been saying for weeks and weeks and weeks. We just need to wait it out. There is light at the end of the tunnel. I know you don't want to be patient. I don't want to be patient either. I'm ready to buy more and more and more cars. But we loaded up months ago for a reason, because we know that this is going to happen, and it happens every year just like this, all the same. I know a lot of people are saying that, well, tax checks are going to be way lower than they have been. It doesn't matter. They can be significantly lower than what they have in the years past, but the inventory is so low right now in the wholesale system, it's not going to take any kind of bump to be able to get these prices to spike even higher than what they are right now. And the psychological thing that ends up happening in these auctions is that as the inventory gets less and less and less, if there's a dealer out there, even if they don't feel like they need to buy something at this auction, if they see that there's just no inventory around, they'll get worried that they're not going to be able to restock, to be able to have cars for, I mean, weeks from where they are at the moment, that they're going to feel like they need to panic buy to be able to have some inventory. Because at the end of the day, if you have a car dealership and you don't have cars to sell, then there's no reason for you to be in business. You have to keep rolling cars to be able to make money in this industry, and to be able to roll cars, you have to have cars. So there will be a lot of panic buying that goes on in the next few weeks as these tax checks start rolling in. And just going back to the beginning point, a lot of these dealers are going to get overexposed, and there's going to be a breaking point. And I believe that breaking point is going to come 2 months from now, where we're going to be able to see a lot of these dealers panicking, and they have to get out of inventory that they paid way too much for. All right, so just to recap, the reason why you're seeing used car prices go up right now is because there's lower demand for new cars. That's pushing customers into used cars. Also, it's making less trade-ins happen at these used car dealer auctions, which is what we buy. So the demand is up for used cars, the supply is down for used cars. And what do you want to do as a consumer? Just wait. If you have to buy a car, I feel very, very bad for you right now, but do your homework. If you are in the camp that you have to buy a vehicle right now, there are some dealers that are selling cars for reasonable prices. I would say our prices are still high comparatively to what they have been over the last few years, but there's still dealers out there that will sell you a car. You can find cars for under $5,000. You can find cars that are somewhat close to what the value should be. You just have to search around and do your homework, and make sure you take a car mechanic before you buy one. That's going to be my advice, no matter what kind of car you're buying, what kind of price range. Make sure that you're getting it checked out before you buy it. So all that to say, just thank you guys for all the support, and leave us a comment down in the comment section, and ask us a question if you have anything there, and please like and subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for all the support.